Morning, Professor.
Good morning. Wait. Chats. Good morning. I'm running a little bit late. Okay, got you. Understood. Couple of housekeeping things before we begin with today's short discussion. I've updated a couple of things. I think it's necessary for you to take a look at if you haven't already. So let me share that with you. Uh, so I've been asked to take over the procedures course, Rad Procedures 1. So I'll be doing physics, procedures, and Rad Protection. And they're going to be set up the same way. So let me start with today's course. For going forward, if there are study guides, they'll be placed right here, right at the top. I already put a study guide for quiz 3 and just opens up to a Kahoot. At the top, there's a list of items that you should study. Then there are some slides and there are questions in between. All right. And that will be the same for procedures and physics. If there's a recording, I'll put it in the announcement. Now, I don't anticipate there'll be lots of recordings, but if there is, I'll put it there. So for procedures last week, there was, go ahead, Lee.
Oh, just want to make sure, are you going to teach us 3 classes from now on?
Yeah.
Oh, would you happen to know who's going to teach us imaging too?
Oh, I guess that's me. That's me also. I'm sorry. Four.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Four. Four.
Professor,
So, yes.
could you talk a little bit more about what Monday is going to look like and if we're going to be doing what Monday and Wednesday schedule going to look like?
Wednesdays will be, one second. Let me finish this first and I'll get right to that, I promise. So if there are recordings, I'll put them on here and it will say it. So for example, last week when we had a recording on the 24th, I'll put them in their respective weeks. A significant number of you have already watched this. Then Rad Review, I think I sent most of you a link. Some of you didn't get it for some reason. And the link was for you to sign up for Rad Review. Let me see, class 1. So 62 of you have, all of you have not yet signed up for a Rad Review course. So you should look for that link. And it's important you sign up. Some of you have it and have not signed up. So when you do, just type your name in. And if you want to change your password, it's up to you. All right. I also put on all of the courses except imaging a little walkthrough, of how to use Rad Review and why it's important. It'll be at the top. It's like a YouTube link I made, a YouTube video I made yesterday. Rad Review platform overview. Make sure you look at that if you need to. Some of you might be familiar with the platform already. It's very, very good. There's another one I'm going to give you access to also that I've been using since last year. It's called Cloverleaf. And that one has videos and it's also useful. It's like your own personal teacher. All right, so about Mondays, let's start with Mondays first. And I've updated the syllabus. So let me open up both of them. Procedures, modules. And the syllabus matches up with the modules, right? So this is week 10, March 31st is going to be in person. week 10, March 31st, is going to be in person, but at 2 p.m. So on that day, you will have a lab in the morning for a longer period of time. So it will start at 9 and end at, well, as long as you want to, I guess. Because my understanding is because there are so many of you, basically, you don't get enough practice. And some of you don't even get a chance to go to do lab that day. All right. And it alternates. So in the next week, well, the next week you have a quiz. That's going to be in person. There's no if or ands or buts about it. It's going to be at 9 a.m. And it just follows through. Same thing for week 13. It's going to be in person. I'll be there. And then there's a review on week 14 online actually in person here. Just follow this. You'll see it. Who asked the question, by the way?
I did.
Okay. Is this clear for you, or do you see where to find this information?
So on Monday, you said we're gonna have lab from 10 to what time will lecture?
9 till, it says it right here, 2 p.m.
And then lectures from 2 to what?
It's 3 hours, so it's going to be 2 to 5.
And then on Wednesdays, could you clarify, please?
Wednesday does not change. It's either Zoom or in person. It's gonna be the same time.
So from 2 to 5. Wait, is it gonna be from because Bai used to teach it from 4 to 6.
Yeah, so it's the same time regardless. If I'm there, I'm gonna be there next week, so we can talk. It's gonna be in person.
Okay. Also on Mondays we used to end at 4. So are we really gonna end at 5?
The class is 3 hours. You're not compelled to stay, but that's the earliest I can get there. I am traveling from Massachusetts.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Professor.
Good morning.
I'm not sure if you did attendance yet. The link that I had was not working. So one of my classmates, Huming, was kind enough to share the link, and I just joined.
Yeah, I was in the wrong link too.
Got you. So to find the link for all of these,
Right.
let me
Thank
see
you.
if I can walk you through. So if you just go to Rad Protection, let me view as a student. Go to Rad Protection and view a student. You go to announcements.
Professor, I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize. I used the link that you sent via email on the 26th.
So I'm going to show you how to find it now regardless. So if you go to each course, let's go to dashboard. Actually, no, I can't apparently. Say Rad Protection, and here it says Rad Protection Zoom link. And that will take you to this class. All right. And same thing for physics and so on. So if we go to physics, so always look in the announcements for the Zoom link. Go to announcements. Here it is, Rad Physics Zoom link.
Professor, I have a question.
Sure.
Good morning, by the way.
Morning.
The days that we have Zoom at 9 o'clock, are we having labs in the afternoon? And if we are, does that mean that we're coming to school to do the Zoom?
Oh, you mean for procedures?
Yeah.
For procedures on the day that you're having,
So, like, for example, the week
z-
13, it
yeah,
says Zoom at 9, but are we doing lab that day as well?
you're doing lab at the regular time.
So that means that because from my understanding, we would have to do the Zoom at school because we're not going to have enough time to leave our homes to get to the school in time to do labs.
That
So
sounds that
will
sounds reasonable, yeah.
Zoom will be done in the classroom.
Yeah, where you do Zoom, it would be you do what's best for your schedule, but it will be at 9 a.m.
And then the lab will start at 1.
Lab will start at regular time.
Okay.
So the only interruption to your schedule per se would be the in-person days where I'm actually teaching you. So that would be the 31st, it's at 2 p.m. and the 28th at 2 p.m. Other times it will be the regular schedule. And if it's on Zoom, like Nakita just pointed out, it's going to be at 9 a.m. So if you're 2 hours away, Nakita just made a good point. There's no time to get from home to get to lab on time. All right. So if you're doing it in the school, bring headphones. That way you can only hear yourself and you're already in the school. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And as far as what's coming up for procedures, well, I tried to put the other stuff that you already got from the announcements where it says slides and so on. I tried to put them in their own modules. I'm not sure if they're in the right order, but here they are, and I just relabeled them, not too much, so at least you could find them in one place and it's labeled. Okay, and then for week, uh, 1 second, Cassandra. We're doing the next week. We're doing wrist, forearm, and elbow. There's some labeling practice, and then here's the PowerPoint. And it's set up the same way like we did for last week, right? Where we do some anatomy, we do some projections, then we do some image critique, and we repeat. All right, go ahead, Cassandra. You got a question?
Yeah, for principles of imaging,
Principles of imaging.
we had did like one last we had did a lecture after the midterm, I believe, or a lecture that was not included in the midterm. Where will you be picking like up? Will you be picking up from that lecture, or are we
Whatever
just
you haven't done yet that's left on the syllabus, I'll fit that in. I
so are
wouldn't.
we throwing away the lecture that we learned, the last lecture that we learned, or
What do you mean throwing it away?
because with Professor Ba, we had a lecture right before the midterm, but it was not on the midterm. So are you going to pick up right there, or are we just going to be starting something different or a new lecture altogether?
Got you. Did you finish that content?
Um, I don't really even remember, but it was about I don't even remember what it was about, to be honest, but it was like about roster beams and scanning, I believe. I don't think we finished it, but we did get a little bit farther in the lecture. I'm not sure if it's up, but yeah, I was wondering if you're going to be picking up right there, or are we going to just start a new lecture all together?
I think it only makes sense. You have the PowerPoints already, right? Obviously, right?
I will have to check, but yeah.
The syllabus I've been given has a different content coming up for the next time I see you guys. It's going to be next week. So it would only make sense for me to start a different thing rather than try to pick up where somebody else did. Go ahead, Lee.
Oh, I have the slide. Would you want me to send it to you?
Sure, that's if it might already be on here, but yes, please do. Principal imaging, it's imaging 2, right? So it's in the modules.
Yeah, Professor Bass sent the slide to us on March 12th, so maybe you can see it on the
March 12th. This one right here.
Yeah, that's our last lecture
Got you.
for imaging.
All right, so let me see the syllabus. I will pick up where's the schedule.
He usually handed it out. It might not be there, but we had like a physical handout of like week 1, week 2. Oh, there
This
it is.
one here? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you did
The CR lecture, the one right above the midterm.
this one here.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't think there's time to go back to this. I think it just makes sense to keep going forward. 1, 2.
But is quiz 4 going to be on week 7's lecture?
That wouldn't be fair either because I didn't go through that content. Just remember,
Well,
you might be taught something, but we don't have to have a quiz on every bit of content.
will we be able to review that because we kind of we learned it, but we still need a refresher on it.
Yeah, we can review it for sure. Computed radiography. Yeah, we can review it. All right, go ahead, Chris Cayo. Oh no, are you speaking? Or did you change your mind?
No, for procedures, the last notes that we had was on the neck soft tissue and the abdomen. Do we have to know that for the upcoming quiz? Because I know you started the hand, and we'll be doing the wrist on Monday. But as far as the last slide that was taught, it was the soft tissue neck and the abdomen. What do we do with that?
Quiz 3 is going to be on week 9 and 10.
I'm talking about procedure. Okay, so it's only gonna be on the hand and fingers and wrist,
Wrist, forearm, and elbow.
forearm and elbow.
And there's a study guide already posted. I think you missed that bit.
So like so still like
Actually, I
what
haven't put the study guide yet, but this one. Go ahead.
so still what happens with the soft tissue of the neck and the abdomen? What happens with that?
As far as will it be evaluated on it?
Will it be evaluated on it? Yeah. Are you gonna end up doubling back on that topic eventually, or no? Like, because that's something I would believe that we still need to know, right? Like,
Yeah, you
fully
need
know
to
for
know that.
especially the abdomen.
Yeah, for sure. The abdomen for sure. Here's what you should be. Here's what usually happens in your first procedures course. Chest, abdomen, upper extremity.
Okay.
That usually happens in your first procedures course. Then comes the rest of the stuff: spine, um, soft tissue neck, trauma, that kind of stuff. All right.
Okay.
That's what usually happens. We start with because the neck is very, very involved. The cervical spine, soft tissue neck, a lot of stuff going on. In my view, and remember, everybody does things differently. Doesn't mean I'm better at it. Just means I'm different at it. The way how I approach your procedures, you start to learn to walk before you learn to run. So you do the chest, do the
Hmm.
abdomen, do the hand, the fingers, and then you work your way up. All right, because then otherwise we'll be jumping to stuff that might be a little bit more advanced. Go ahead, Lee. Don't worry, we got time. It's a short lecture.
Oh yeah, I just have a suggestion because right now we have like two different set of material, so I'm kind of lost. I'm not sure how to study. So is it possible for you to post a study guide to us so that we can study according to your study guide? Because we need to prepare for the upcoming quizzes and the final, right? So is it possible?
Yes, I'll do the same. Like I've done for physics and procedure and protection,
Yeah.
where I've posted it
Mm-mm. Yeah,
here.
because we have been like studying Professor Bard's material. So because right now we have a different set of material need to study on. So
Yeah. So I'm doing the same for it. Just takes a lot of time. I'm up
I
until
yeah, I understand that. So whenever you are ready, so please post the study guide so we can prepare for the
yeah.
quiz.
I will post a study guide for every quiz and exam at least 4 days before each of them.
Okay,
That is how it will go.
got it.
And it will be in the same format as this, and it will say study guides are placed here, kind of stuff. All right, go ahead, Minsood and Sarah.
So, like from my understanding, you're saying that for now, procedures one, we're just gonna be going through whatever you're teaching, and procedures two will be starting all the new material like the soft tissue of the neck and abdomen. So we disregard what we learn.
I didn't say to disregard. Let's say, for example, like I said, I'll put a study guide, but for procedures one, you should be focused on chest, abdomen, hand, fingers, forearm, wrist, elbow, shoulder.
Okay.
All right, and then we go forward from there. This is how I've been doing it for a long, long time. Go ahead, Sarah.
So we don't have any like I said, the
Wait,
notes that we have.
one second, Chris. Go ahead, Sarah.
I'm wondering for all the classes you're teaching now, do we have to learn the material before the class for
What do you mean learn?
procedures? And
What do you mean learn material? As in, if the material will be available before the class, or do you have to read it? What are you asking?
when you teach us protection and physics, you expected us to have gone through the material before and be familiar with it. Do you
Yeah, because
expect
I
the same?
posted ahead of time.
So do you expect the same for imaging and procedures?
It makes sense that at a minimum, someone goes through the PowerPoint. So, for example, if we're going through wrist, forearm, elbow, the PowerPoint and the labeling has been there. The labeling has been there for a little bit. So it's a PowerPoint. So coming up Wednesday morning, at least Monday night, Tuesday, you should have looked at this. This is my view. It just makes the thing go smoother because it's impossible for you to get all new material in however time it is. It's a lot of stuff you're going to try to learn. But if you at least know the anatomy, it makes it easier. If we're going to do X-ray tube like we are today, and you can't point out where the anode is or the cathode, then it's be hard for me to explain to you what thermionic emission is because I'm going to use terms that you should be familiar with. Sounds good, Sarah? Okay. Chris, you were saying something, then Javon, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was saying, do we just look at that last, like, do we basically study that last abdomen lecture that we had? Because you said that the soft tissue is really like kind of like more advanced, and but the abdomen is definitely for procedure one. So do we still study the slides that we have from Professor Ba on abdomen, or will you be giving us new slides on the
I'm not giving you new
abdomen
slides on past content at all, but I will definitely give you a study guide. That's what you should know
for the abdomen?
for the abdomen.
Okay, copy.
Cool. Javon, just two more, and then I gotta start this lecture.
So just for
Javon,
clarification, everything that you're about to teach us is all we need to focus on, right?
I mean for the final or for quizzes?
Not for the final, just for the upcoming quizzes. Like whatever you're about to teach us, and that's what we need to worry about.
For the quizzes. For the
Yeah,
final is different. There will be a
yeah.
separate study guide for the final.
And then you're gonna teach us the abdomen and soft tissues on your own time, right? Like on another time.
The abdomen is you already learned this, but the
Yeah.
soft tissue neck I will not go through,
Okay, cool.
and
That's
I
it.
will
Thank you.
not include this in the final or in
Thank
any
you.
quizzes.
Appreciate it.
Layla, go ahead. Last one.
Hi, good morning.
Morning.
I just wanted to know how your quiz formats would be for the following quizzes and classes because I couldn't help but notice that some of the material that's on the quiz is not necessarily synonymous with the things that we learn in class. So I just
So
wanted to know
for my
how,
quizzes,
yeah,
you sure?
yeah.
Which quiz?
Like for example, the physics quiz, there were a lot of questions on like convection and like conduction and things of that nature, but we didn't spend that much time on those materials in class. We were more focused on like the X-ray tube and, particulate radiation, things like that. So
All right,
I
so
was
you're,
just like,
I see. One second. So let me see what's happening here.
uh,
I just wanted to piggyback off of Layla, Professor McGivens, because I noticed that as well. Like the study guide is more so like not necessarily what is on the quizzes. So it's kind of difficult.
The study guide is not on the quizzes.
like when I was reviewing the Quizlet, there was a lot of information regarding, certain material that wasn't necessarily reflective to what was on the actual quiz.
Wait, I sent you a Quizlet study guide?
Yes, for the midterm.
Okay, one second. Midterm review. Okay, so you use this as your only
No, that
guide.
wasn't like my only guide, but I focused on that as well as like basically everything that we had learned. And there were some things that were on the test, but I just feel like a majority of the test wasn't specifically relative to what we had been learning in this course. Like some of the stuff was like things that we learned in like physics last semester, but not necessarily radiation physics.
Got you. So you're saying conduction was not on the PowerPoints?
I'm not saying it wasn't, I'm just saying I wasn't I don't think it was very reflective to what we learned as a whole within the whole course for that to be like a majority of the questions on the test. So I was just wondering like what exactly we should be prepared for and how you're going to structure the quizzes moving forward
Right.
because
How I make the study guides, I literally look at the quizzes and tell you guys what you need to study.
hmm,
This is how I do it. I look at the quizzes and I tell you what you need to study. Um, Quizzes, midterm. And I go through basically everything and I tell you what you need to study. So this is the midterm. You're saying most of it was about convection?
Well, not that specifically, but just like
All right, so like this one here, this question.
like
Which
something
of
like that, or like, you
which
know.
one of which of these requires heat transfer? So it's not being cutting paper. It's going to be B and C. I think that even the ones that let me see which other one here. There's one question on heat transfer. I don't even think the word. Let me see something. Control find convection. Okay. All are heat transfer methods used in the X-ray tube except. But this is going to be pretty straightforward, I think, right? Explosion is not one of them. So let's say you're in the ART exam. There's going to be stuff that you won't see, but you got to know. But there's a way to figure it out. I mean, I think this is clear. Explosion cannot be a method of heat transfer.
Right. I wasn't specifically just talking about like one subject matter. I just meant as far as the things that we learn in class and the material, it's very dense compared to the actual exam. So it was just kind of.
I see. All right, so here's what's going to happen. And how I should how I make these, I basically go through all the PowerPoints and I generate questions from the PowerPoints. So if it's on the PowerPoint, there's a question on it. And then from that, I give you guys a study guide. This is how it's done. No, unfortunately, sometimes we don't get to mention or read everything that's on the PowerPoint. This is just how it is in class. Because the good thing is you have these to look at on your own, plus the chapters and so on. But what I've decided to do going forward is to put the study guides in its own folder. All right, so hopefully that will be more streamlined. And like I said, I go straight from, and I'll list the topics too. I think I verbally listed the topics for midterm, but I'll make sure they're written down. And I just basically look at the quizzes, and I write down the topics I think you should know. So you won't be tested on everything, but you'll have to learn everything. Otherwise, if we test you on everything, the quiz will be 500 questions long. Sounds good, Leila?
Okay, thank you. Just checking.
All right, you're welcome. All right. Cool. It's good that we ironed this out before. I was going to do a video for the answers for the midterm, but then I remembered that wouldn't be good. Because if I put it on YouTube, the next year's class will get 100. That's not good. That's not good at all. Not good at all. Not good at all. All right, so for today, can you guys see the PowerPoint? Is it on the screen? Okay, awesome. So for today, there's a lot of stuff on here. It's 73 slides, it looks like. But here's how you're going to look at these. And the reason it's structured like this is that some of you have mentioned, and I agree, that 3 different PowerPoints is not useful. So I've combined all of them. So you'll find that the last 2 bits for all of these will be like a summary, like a shortened version of the prior slides, right? So here's what we're going to do today. I'll just show you a quick thing and why we're learning this. We're going to learn about the animal cell, which you'll go into details more with Professor Evans next year. I will talk about common terminologies and DNA and cell division and the law of Bergonian tribondue. And then we're going to look at radiation, LET, RBE, oxygen enhancement ratio, and so on. How we look at the tissue, and then we're going to look at how does radiation impact the tissue, right? So that's all this is saying here. Why is all this important? Well, you got to know let me see what this chat is. How does X-ray, good morning, I'm headed to, okay. How does X-ray impact the tissue? To learn that, you got to learn what the tissue is and what kind of tissues are more susceptible to radiation damage. What does the word radiosensitive mean, Yasmin? What does radiosensitive mean? In the interest of time, does anybody know? Go ahead, Kennedy.
I know what radiosensitivity means. I don't know if it's the exact same, but it's basically the likelihood of the tissue getting damaged from
Yes.
radiation.
Yes. Radiosensitivity is a derivative of the word radiosensitive. You say something is radiosensitive, then you're describing its a property as radiosensitivity. It is the same thing, exactly right. So we got to figure out what are these tissues, which ones are more susceptible to the potential damage from ionizing radiation. All right. All right. So I won't go through all of these, but we will still dig into the things that I think are relevant to your understanding going forward. All right. So why we need to learn about this? If cells are damaged in a certain way, well, they can die. And the term for that is apoptosis or necrosis. Make sure you know this: apoptosis or necrosis. Let me do slideshow so it's larger. Apoptosis, when cells die, or they can behave abnormally. You can also have mutation, and the one form of mutation is cancer, where the cells replicate, but not in a normal way. So they're abnormal cancerous cells. That's what a typical animal cell looks like. What is this structure here, Chris? What's the structure? What's this structure?
Is that a ribosome?
No. Does anybody know? Go ahead, Laura. Excuse me.
Is it the mitochondria?
Mitochondria. So for the ART, you're not required to know every bit of the cell organ, but you got to know the main ones. I think it's important for just for general knowledge. It's important. So nucleus and mitochondria, and so on. And then next year you'll learn more detail what each of these does. But I have on here one slide that gives you the functions of these organelles. So the structures inside of here, if you go back to AMP1, these are called organelles. In the middle we have the nucleus. Inside we have the nucleolus. And each of these have their own functions. Their own function. Some of these are more susceptible to radiation, right? And some of them not so much. But if the nucleus is hit, that could be detrimental to the cell, because the nucleus is the powerhouse of the cell. It's almost like someone takes out the engine of your car. You're not going to go anywhere. But if they knock off the rearview mirror, it's going to be fine, right? So starting from the outside in, we have the cell membrane. The cell membrane, think of that like a barrier to a castle. It's what keeps things inside and keep the bad things out. Acts as a semi-permeable membrane. That just means it lets some things in and some things out. And only some things can get in, right? Semi-permeable. That's a cell membrane or the cell wall. And inside we have the cytoplasm. The cytoplasm has all of the stuff in it. So there'll be some water, some organelles, and so on. So your body is made up of two types of compounds, generally. Organic compounds and inorganic compounds. So go ahead, Cassandra.
For the previous slide, so the cytoplasm contains all the organelles and stuff except the nucleus. That's the protoplasm. What's the
No, the
protoplasm?
protoplasm is the whole thing. Protoplasm is the whole thing. See it has the
whole what?
That includes the nucleus and the cytoplasm.
But what is the protoplasm? The cytoplasm is the jelly-like substance, and the protoplasm just includes everything?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So organic and inorganic compounds, you should know this at a minimum. The difference between these, one main difference is that organic compounds have carbon. Carbon is a basic constituent of organic compounds. And examples of organic compounds in our body would be proteins, carbs, lipids, also called fats, and nucleic acids. Carbs, another word for carbs would be like sugars, saccharides, right? And an example of inorganic compound would be water. So water is not organic because it does not have carbon. Water, the chemical name for that is H2O. H2O, as most of you know. Hydrogen and oxygen. There's no carbon. Hence it's called, it's inorganic. Go ahead, Alan.
You said organic compounds have carbohydrates?
Have carbon. Like it says on the screen, carbon is the basic constituent of all organic matter.
Okay,
Inorganic
thank you.
compounds do not have carbon. All right. Go ahead, Cassandra.
You said something about saccharides. Could you repeat that again?
Sure. It's on another slide too, but I'll say it here. So another name, I was giving you another name for carbohydrates. And that could be saccharides or sugar.
Thank you.
You're welcome. From this slide, what you should know is most of your body is made up of water. Now, in years gone by, we would learn that it's 80 to 85. Some books used to say 95%. However, there's no consensus. Right now, I think the closest to consensus we have is 60% or more, and it varies, right? What you should know is most of your body weight is water. That's going to be important going forward when we learn about how radiation interacts with the cell. Well, you should know from here that most of your body is water. And here, believe it or not, the study guide has started. So I'm stressing certain things, not just because I want you to do one of the tests, but this is important information you'll need for the registry. All right? Because they're big on rad protection, and this is a big part of it. So most of your body is water. It's going to be important. When we go forward, we're looking at other things going forward. All right, we got two types of proteins we're going to look at. One is enzymatic proteins, and another word for enzymatic proteins is just enzymes. Enzymatic proteins are just enzymes. And all enzymes do are the catalysts. They start processes in your body. Like you have digestive enzymes, for example. For example, in your mouth, you have amylase. It's not on the slide, but just general knowledge that starts to digest carbohydrates in your mouth, right? You have lipase and all kinds of other enzymes that they break stuff down. Then we have structural proteins, which provide the body with its shape and form. So what are enzymatic proteins? They're just enzymes. They're substances that starts different processes in your body. Start to break down stuff or to do some kind of chemical work. These are different from hormones. Enzymes and hormones are different, right? Hormones tell other organs what to do. So we have glands that secrete these substances, like your thyroid, your adrenal gland, your pituitary gland. You don't have to know this right now. But just know at this level that hormones are different from enzymes. Whereas enzymes do direct action, hormones tell other structures what to do, right? So your pituitary gland will secrete a hormone that tells your body, grow more, grow here, a certain place, that kind of stuff. Antibodies, well, they attack invaders. So these terms are important for you to know. You will see them. You'll hear about them, and it's important for you to be able to converse in these terms, or be conversant in these terms, so you can be a functioning member of the healthcare team, right? So again, enzymes, they perform direct action and stuff. They function as organic catalysts, so they either start an action, break down stuff, that kind of thing. Hormones, they are secreted to tell other organs what to do, right? You hear someone say your hormones are out of whack, or you're deficient in this gland, so this gland isn't creating enough of this hormone, hence you might be deficient in some kind of form or function. Antibodies, you've heard about this before, they attack invaders. Antibodies attack invaders, or antigens. Antigens are structures or substances that can cause disease. Antigen. Any questions before I go on? Go ahead, Lee.
Are the antibodies produced by lymphocytes, like the B cell?
You're saying, for example, of an antibody?
Yes.
Yeah. So anything that fights off invaders. So for example, you know what? It's a good question. It's a good question. How the flu vaccine works, and most vaccines, how they work is they introduce in your body the dead part of the inactive part of the virus, right? And then your body recognizes it and develops an antibody to fight against it, right? So 1 second, Clunas. So think of an antibody as, give me a second to think. Okay, the way I used to describe this, imagine you're in your house and you find out your house is now vulnerable to someone breaking into your house to come through the window. So then you decide, you know what I'm going to do to prevent this next time, since I know that I have a vulnerability, is put bars on the window. So that bar is now an antibody. That's how antibodies work. Go ahead, Clunis.
What's the difference between an antigen and a pathogen? Are they like the same thing?
Oh, very good. A pathogen. I think those terms are used interchangeably now. I did not have it on the slide. I think so. Let me look this up and I'll get right back to you. I've never thought about that. All right. I promise I'll give you a definite answer. Who that asked a question? Was it Clunas? I won't do it right now. Let me write this down and I'll send you all a follow-up email, okay?
Take a guess at it.
Yeah, go right ahead.
Isn't a pathogen something that causes the infection or disease, and then the antibodies will prevent it?
No, not an antibody, an antigen.
Antigen.
Yeah, like you see how it says that antibodies fight
No,
antigens.
they're
So
basically the same thing.
it's something you
Both
don't
can
want.
cause a disease. I can give you the answer right now. Both can cause a disease. All right.
Okay.
An antigen is a type of pathogen. Go ahead, Solis. Solis actually he does this stuff for a living, I think. Go ahead, Solis.
So an antigen is found on found on the surface of pathogens. So technically, they are part of the disease process.
Very good. Thank you, sir. How did I know he was going to have the best answer? All right, cool. All right. Clunis, you good with that? You happy with that?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Remember, I don't have all the answers, but I can figure it out, and together we can work this out together. This is cool. Thank you, Solis. All right. So carbs. Earlier, I said that another name for carbohydrates is saccharides. That's how you spell it. The primary purpose of carbs is to provide fuel for cell metabolism. Because the initial PowerPoint I put on here had way more stuff. I don't think it's necessary, so I whittled it down to what I think is necessary. You should, at a minimum, know what carbs does, what carbs do, carbohydrates do, and its primary purpose is to provide fuel for metabolism. So when you go into, for example, if you go into the gym, they would always say eat some carbs before or after, that kind of stuff, because it gives you fuel. This statement here is in the book, but when I researched it, it's not completely accurate. That's why I didn't underline it here. I did not underline it, where it says most abundant in the liver. I couldn't find a consensus on that, but it's in your textbook. In any case, this is not necessary to know for the registry. What's necessary to know for the registry and for your career is, what does carb do? And I think most people know this anyways. Provide fuel for cell metabolism. Lipids, also called fats, lipids and fats are synonymous. What they do, they're structural parts of cell membranes, and they also store energy. It's not said in this part, but lipids can be a source of energy, and they store energy. So sometimes if you're exercising, you're going to burn the energy from fats. Remember, all of these are examples of organic compounds. So we've done proteins, carbs, lipids. Then we're going to switch to nucleic acids. This is the bit that make up DNA. And that's within the nucleus, primarily in the nucleus. Primarily in the nucleus. All right, so what are our nucleic acids? Well, they help to code for your genes. This is how you get your genetic makeup. DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid. I had trouble saying that many years ago. And RNA are two types of nucleic acids that are inside the cell. DNA is primarily inside the nucleus, primarily. inside the nucleus. What you should know from this is that DNA is what codes for your characteristics. It helps to code for different genes in your body. How is it set up? Here, I think I can switch to, one second, let me get to my slide. How's it set up? We got the rungs of the ladder here, the sides of it, and which make up the, one second, let me get to the slide before I jump to it. One second. Where is it? One second. Here we go. We have the we call this the strands, or the rungs of the ladder are the DNA, the base pairs, and the side rails that can be damaged also. We call these the phosphate, the sugar phosphate backbone of the DNA strand, the DNA helix. It's important you know the base pairs. So the base pairs are guanine, adenine, thymine, and cytosine. And you should know how these pair with each other. The way how I learned this is car in the garage, apple under the tree. So cytosine pairs with guanine for DNA, and adenine pairs with thymine. And these are the base pairs that make up the rungs of the ladder, we call them. Make sure you know this: a car in the garage, apple under the tree. Make sure you know this: car in the garage, apple on the tree. So cytosine pairs with guanine, and adenine pairs with thymine. Make sure you know this: car in the garage, apple under the tree. Has anybody heard that before, by the way? I think that's...
No.
No, yeah. So I don't know. Did anybody have any other way to memorize the base pairs for DNA? Okay, so make sure you know this: car in the garage, apple under the tree. These are the base pairs. So the DNA, these would code for different genes or characteristics in your body. That means your eye color, your hair color, your skin color, your makeup, whether you have a birthmark somewhere, that kind of stuff. And so if these are damaged, then it can cause a mutation. So the coding will be all messed up. Right? All right, so what you should know about the different types of nucleic acids, let me get right back here. Is that how it works is DNA is inside the nucleus primarily, and then that it replicates itself into RNA, and it transfers the information to messenger RNA. Make sure you know this: messenger RNA. Let me get here to one second, right here, messenger RNA, and that goes out and gives it information to transfer RNA, and that's how you get your genetic information replicated in the cell. So just to recap that a little bit, the DNA is inside the cell that replicates to RNA. Messenger RNA leaves the cell, leaves the nucleus, I'm sorry, and once in the cytoplasm, it starts to make proteins. Transfer RNA receives genetic coding from RNA. So if I should ask you, what does messenger RNA do? It takes the genetic information from DNA, and that's picked up by transfer RNA. At this level, that's all you need to know. Where is DNA located? Primarily in the nucleus. RNA can be in the nucleus and in the cytoplasm. What does messenger RNA do? It initially receives the genetic information from DNA. What does tRNA do? Receives that information from mRNA, messenger RNA. So it's like a relay race. It goes from DNA to mRNA, then to tRNA. At a minimum, this is what you need to know. We're not going to be geneticists here. We're just going to learn the stuff that we need to understand why it's a critical part of the cell. Go ahead, Cassandra.
You said that RNA is found in ribosomes and the nucleus?
I didn't mention ribosomes at all, but
where did you say we can find
RNA can be found in the nucleus and in the cytoplasm.
Okay,
DNA is primarily in the nucleus. Incidentally, once the RNA gets into the cytoplasms, that's when the tRNA causes ribosomes to produce the proteins. Go ahead, Javon.
You said mRNA takes the genetic info from the DNA?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, so just to review what you should know, where's DNA? Primarily in the nucleus. Whereas RNA? RNA can be inside the nucleus and outside the nucleus in the cytoplasm. What does DNA do? It contains the genetic information for all cells. mRNA collects that genetic information from the DNA and leaves the nucleus. tRNA then takes that information to the ribosome. At a minimum, that's what you need to know for now. That's the basic role of all of these. We're not going to be geneticists. Quite often we're in school and we learn a bunch of stuff that we never hear about again, or doesn't help us to do our jobs.
Professor?
All right. Yes, go ahead.
I just got to jump off for the advisement, okay?
Yeah, this is being recorded, so you're fine.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So the human body has 46 different chromosomes, normally, I should say. Normally. That's 23 pairs. Reproductive cells has only 23 chromosomes each. Why would reproductive cells have 23 and human cells have 46? Does anybody know?
It's on the pair. So
Kazi, is that you? Go ahead. What you got?
so 23, it's on the pair, like it's paired. So in human cells, it's 46.
So the question was why would reproductive cells only have 23 chromosomes instead of 46?
Oh, because one cell, one pair of cells is responsible for our reproduction. So it's 20. It's actually 22 times 2, it's 44, and one pair is for the reproduction. So that's what I know.
Okay, we're gonna see if we could get a different answer. You're not wrong though. Let's see what we got here. Who else we got? Let me see someone. Phoebe, what you got for me?
With reproduction, you only need half of the DNA because when two people come together, they combine it to be 46.
That's exactly right. So when you have two sex cells coming together, that's when we get the full complement of the human genome. Otherwise, you can have abnormalities. There are some conditions like Down syndrome and so on where we have an extra chromosome. However, you should know at a minimum that the somatic cell has 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. And somatic means body cell. Soma means body. So a little hint, if I'm writing this down, it's important for you to know for the registry or for some upcoming either homework or something. But this is important. Soma means body. So the body cell or human cells have 46 chromosomes or 23 pairs. Reproductive cells, germ cells, not a term for reproductive cells, only have 23 chromosomes each. And then so the genes are the basic unit of heredity. So earlier we talked about the
Professor, that's what
yes.
well, I'm a little bit forward, but it talks about the mitosis, and I'm not sure how to say the other name, meiosis.
Yeah, that's good enough.
So yeah, genetic cells is a meiosis, and the somatic cells is a mitosis.
Just to be clear, you mean germ cells are
Meiosis.
Got it.
Yeah.
Not genetic cells, germ cells, right?
Right. That
I
one.
got you. Yeah. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. But yes, exactly right. Thank you. The genes would be the different codes that the DNA can produce, right? So it might go in a different order. Say, adenine, thymine, and guanine, cytosine, and the different orders of these give you different genes. You've heard this term before. That you get this characteristic from your mom or your dad or your gene. Well, that's because the DNA is passed on, kind of stuff. And sometimes it's hereditary. Sometimes it just happens in the womb, right? So, for example, I have brown eyes like my father. That's a gene that was coded in my DNA. I have a birthmark on my right arm. That's a gene, kind of stuff that's coded in my DNA. All right, so what you should know is how many chromosomes are in the human cell, how many chromosomes are in the germ cell, and what's a gene? Gene is a basic unit of heredity. I'm skipping some of this stuff because it's either self-explanatory or not something that you should focus on. For example, it's not important to know this value here, but it's cool, I guess. I really want to get to the other stuff. All right, so the most prominent inorganic compound in our body is water. Water. Most of our body is water. Don't get hung up on this value here because it varies. So if you see this value as the best option on the registry, pick that, right? Because that's the one that's agreed upon in our textbook. But just know there's different sources for these that say 60%, some say 70%, that kind of stuff. At a minimum, you should know most of your body is comprised of water. Water is very important. The other type of inorganic compound is mineral salts. Mineral salts like electrolytes. You've heard of these before. You should know the functions of water in and out of the cell. So some of the functions would be to maintain a stable body temperature, 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. You should learn this in patient care. At a minimum, you should know what homeostasis is. Now, what is homeostasis and why is it important? Does anybody know? Go ahead, Conlan.
Homeostasis is basically like the body's way to regulate itself.
Yeah.
Depending on whatever is like abnormal in the body, like for example, blood pressure, temperature, or yeah, that's about it.
Yeah. Kazi, were you going to say something different? Or you took your hand down? I think you were going to agree.
Homeostasis basically the balancing thing, like for like outside environmental thing and the bodily fluid and other environment. So it's just a balance to keep the balance. It's called homeostasis.
That's exactly right. How the body maintains a stable environment, homeostasis. So water plays an important role in that, in maintaining one facet of homeostasis, which is body temperature. Another facet
Yeah.
would be pH balance,
Yes.
that kind of stuff, right? Why would
Yes. pH.
homeostasis be important? Does anybody know? Anybody want to give it a shot? Well, homeostasis is important because it keeps the body functioning at its peak. So if your temperature is too high or too low, you might be susceptible to certain pathogens, to use a term that somebody brought up, right? So, for example, my mom would say back in the day, it's cold. If you go outside, you're gonna catch a flu from the rain. When I catch the flu or the cold doesn't then exist in the rain. I know she was saying, but at the time it was a little strange. But if your body is too cold, it makes you more susceptible to infections. So you might be exposed to some infections. But if you're maintaining homeostasis, your body's in a certain optimum condition, then you have some resistance. You build up your immunity. Your immune system stays at its peak when your body maintains homeostasis, right? That's why homeostasis is important. All right, so the water helps to maintain that facet of homeostasis in terms of temperature. It also lubricates the digestive system and skeletal system. We see it in joints and we see it in the peritoneum of the abdomen, right? So when you jump around, there's water in your belly. Sometimes you can hear it, but there's water in your belly. All right, we're just gonna say water for now. In your belly, that helps to lubricate your digestive system, inside and out. So when you also swallow something, it's not just rubbing against the insides of your esophagus. There's fluid in there to lubricate the food as it passes through your digestive tract. We also have water in the brain to protect the brain, right? In the term of cerebrospinal fluid. And we have water, also a little bit of water inside your lungs and a little bit of water on the outside of your lungs in a cavity we call a pleural cavity. We'll talk about that some other time. We'll do some kind of pathology or something, but not right now. It also acts as a solvent, keeping some compounds dissolved. So some things can get to they won't remain as a solid, so it kind of breaks down or gets absorbed easily rather than bouncing around your body as a solute, right? So water acts as a solvent, helps to mix up certain compounds so they're less hazardous to your body. So you should know at a minimum what some of these functions are. Again, some of these functions helps to regulate the homeostasis or maintain homeostasis, lubrication for your digestive and skeletal system in terms of joints, and protects organs such as the brain and the lungs. And it acts as a solvent. The last one we'll talk about here is to transport vehicles for water for materials that the cell uses or eliminates. So for example, if the cell wants to get rid of stuff, we look at the cell and it expels it through the semi-permeable cell wall, it's gonna have some water to aid that, right? All right. And the other inorganic substance we mentioned was mineral salts. Mineral salts are important because it helps you create energy, helps you conduct impulses along nerves. It's going to be important actually. So imagine you have, I'm just going to try to draw the end of a neuron and the end of another one. So these two form what's called a synapse, right? And they're trying to send signals to and from. Believe it or not, mineral salts help this to happen much more easily. So when it says conduct impulses along nerves, they're talking about in the synapses or in between the nerve fibers. Go ahead, Solis.
These impulses, are they referring to, can they also be referred to as action potentials?
Oh God, yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Cool.
So
Thanks.
give me a second to think here. So when someone throws something at your head, right? Your eyes got to pick up the information, then send that to your brain, and you decide, are you gonna catch it? Are you gonna duck? That kind of stuff. All that's from some kind of impulse that passes through the nerves in your eye, your brain, your hand, that kind of stuff. Mineral salts are important for that. And so if you're exercising, they always advise that you replenish the mineral salts that you would have otherwise lost through sweat. All right, so important function of this inorganic substance called mineral salts or electrolytes helps to conduct impulses along nerves and helps to create energy. And these are the two ones I would focus on right now.
So another name for mineral salts is electrolytes?
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes. As a clue, if I say another name for something, make sure you know it. It's useful for your education regardless. All right, so you look at this thing and you think, man, do I have to know all of this here? The first slide I put up first PowerPoint I put up did not have all of this, by the way. I put this on here just to condense these slides. At a minimum, you should know what the cell membrane does. And we talked about that, right? Protects the cell and it acts as a semi-permeable membrane, like a protective wall around the cell. You should know that DNA is primarily inside the nucleus. RNA can be inside and outside the nucleus. So, mRNA gets the information from DNA, and that transfers to tRNA, and then that attaches to ribosomes, and then that makes a protein. DNA has the genetic information for the human body, and tRNA then sends that coding to ribosomes to make the different amino acids. Amino acids are bits of protein. All right. This you will need for next year when you're learning Rad Bio from Professor Evans, but I put it on here so just for your reference, and it just lists all the functions of the different organelles. What the ones that you need to know for me right now would just be DNA. and the cell membrane. The rest of it, you will learn more about next year. Sounds good? Any questions before I continue? So when you look at this, it's not important to learn all of this right now. At a minimum, you should know cell membrane and the nucleic acid. All right, so someone mentioned this earlier. There are two types of cell division that we'll talk about, mitosis and meiosis. I'm not even sure if I'm saying that right. Sometimes I mess it up. Meiosis. I am settled on meiosis. All right, so somatic cells or body cells divide by mitosis. Germ cells produced by meiosis. This is a revision for most of us. I won't spend a lot of time on this. What you should know about this is mitosis results in an exact replica of the of the cell. So for example, if I get a laceration is another term for cut, right? And my body's gonna heal that part of my skin, then I want the repaired skin to look exactly like the one before. So hence my body will reproduce those skin cells by mitosis. Now, if germ cells are going to be reproduced, that would be sperm and ova. Then they're going to have half the genetic makeup of the appearance cell. That way they only have 23 chromosomes instead of 46. Again, somatic cells. Earlier I said soma is another term for what, Leila?
Body.
Body. Fantastic. What's an example of a somatic cell, Leila?
A muscle cell?
Muscle cell? Give me one more.
A nerve cell?
There you go. There you go. Go ahead, Regina.
So, genetic cells and germ cells are the same thing?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Mm-mm. Not at all. Did I put that on? I don't think I put that on here. Someone mentioned it earlier, and I corrected them. I think germ cells are the sex cells. Genetic cells are any cells that have genetic information. They have DNA.
Okay.
All right. Not the same at all. All right. So this is why this is why sometimes I prefer to use my own PowerPoints, but because in my view, one second, in my view, this should be at the beginning of the course. We did talk about it. This term should be at the beginning of the course, but somehow the textbook authors, in their brilliant wisdom, put this in chapter 7. In any case, radiation biology is concerned with the effects of ionizing radiation on living systems. In other words, how does ionizing radiation impact living tissue, right? And so a typical question I would ask would be, which types of energies in medical imaging contain ionizing radiation? So I'll just list them one by one. What about ultrasound? What do you think, Nakita? Ultrasound. What do you think of that?
Said if it's ionizing radiation, I don't think
Yes. Okay. What about MRI, Raul? What do you think?
No.
No. What about bone density, Nick? Bone density imaging.
Which one, Professor?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nick Renda, I meant. Nick Renda.
What was the question?
Bone
Sorry.
density.
What was the question though?
Oh, no. Does bone density use ionizing radiation? Bone density imaging. DEXA scan.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what about CAT scan, Jacqueline? CAT scan. What do you think?
Yes.
All right. Cool. So I think we got this. So here's some examples of ionizing radiation. We talked about this when we learned about the electromagnetic spectrum. So I won't spend a lot of time on this. Anybody have any questions on this? All right. Which of these has the highest energy? Let me get. I'll call on the people who have their cameras on because I don't know if the others are here. Alan, which of these has the highest energy?
Is it gamma rays?
Gamma rays. Fantastic. Which of these is most easily absorbed? Let me get. Looks like we got a lot of people here, but they don't have their cameras on, so I don't know if they're here. Regardless, I'm gonna proceed with those who have their cameras on. Garcia, which one of these is most easily absorbed?
Beta.
Mm-mm. Clunis, what do you think?
Is it alpha?
It is alpha for sure. It is alpha. Actually, I think I have one slide on here. I think I put one just for this reason. Let me see if I could find it. Let's see. Let's see if I find it.
So alpha, which one's smaller than the other?
Smaller in terms of size?
Yeah.
Alpha is, I think alpha is like a helium nucleus.
Okay.
I've never been asked that before, but all I can tell you, wait 1 second, let me find this thing on
Just
here.
know one can be breathed in and can cause a lot of damage in the pleural.
Yeah. Alpha, if that gets into your lungs, it's a problem. Okay, I don't think I see it. In any case, it goes alpha, beta, X-ray, gamma, as far as energy levels from lowest to highest. Okay. I don't see it, unfortunately. That's okay. I don't see it. All right, so because we had so many questions in the beginning, we won't be able to take a break, but feel free to take a break if you need to, but we will continue, and this is being recorded. All right, so there are three things that we consider when we're trying to figure out what kind of damage can ionizing radiation have on tissue. The first one is linear energy transfer, relative biologic effectiveness, RBE, or an oxygen enhancement ratio. In a nutshell, we're going to go through this one by one, but in a nutshell, linear energy transfer, if you want to take notes, is how ionizing radiation transfers its energy into irradiated tissue. So imagine that you have, this is someone's head here, and we have radiation coming through or being released from a source. And as it passes through, it's going to deposit energy through here. Now, it stands to reason, if it has a higher energy, it won't be easily absorbed. It's going to pass through. Let me just delete this and put a different color. It's going to pass through easily. So higher energy radiation have low LET. So high energy equals low LET, meaning it won't deposit its energy easily. High energy, low LET. So that means energy of the radiation and its linear energy transfer are inversely proportional. Inversely related, I should say. Inversely related, not proportional. Inversely related. There are slides that discusses in detail, but I'm giving you the synopsis right now. Relative biologic effectiveness just means what's the radiation's capability of causing damage, as in what's its potential for causing damage, right? So let's use my typical violent example. You would say that catapult has less potential for damage than, say, let's say a nuclear weapon, right? So imagine these are two types of radiation. So one of these will have a higher propensity for damage. Well, we call that RBE, relative biologic effectiveness. So if the type of radiation, a particular type of radiation has a higher propensity for damage, then we say it has higher RBE. Okay, go ahead, Cassandra, before I continue. Go ahead.
So that just means that based on the energy ranges, if we're using alpha and like X-ray as an example, we would say that will we say that X-ray has a higher RBE?
No, believe it or not. It would have to deposit its energy more easily in order for it to have a higher RBE. So it
So
stands.
in the language of like what we've been using in class, what example could you give, like an analogy you can give based on like the contents that we've been learning, or like alpha and gamma?
Okay, all right, beautiful. While I write this, I'm thinking. I will say higher energy gives you lower LET and lower RBE. All right. You want a violent example, Cassandra? What do you want? You don't care?
No, I just want an example using like the X-ray, the electromagnetic spectrum. If we're like, what are we, if we're using relative biological effectiveness, wouldn't we be talking about like X-rays and like gamma rays?
Yes,
So
we are.
if we're
Yes. So
comparing the two to each other,
yes, exactly.
which
So
one would have a greater RBE?
got you. So that's actually on subsequent slides. Well, I'm just giving you a synopsis right now, but I'll tell you right now for sure. So it's if the radiation is easily absorbed, it would have a higher RBE, and vice versa. So alpha is easily absorbed, so it has a higher RBE. X-ray has a higher energy. It has low LET, meaning it's not easily absorbed as compared to alpha. That means it has a lower RBE. Does that help you, Cassandra?
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you.
Cool. Oxygen enhancement ratio. This is more relevant in radiation therapy. That, in a nutshell, all that says is tissues that are in a high oxygen environment are more susceptible to radiation damage. They're more radiosensitive. That's all that means. They use this in rad therapy because cancer cells are radio resistant. So what they do is, which is the opposite of radiosensitivity, what they do is put the patient in a high oxygen environment to make the cancer cell more susceptible to radiation damage. As a unfortunate consequence of that, though, that also means that the healthy tissue will be damaged by radiation. But it's a useful trade-off. So they try to narrow the exposure of the cancer cells, narrow the exposure to just the cancer cells, but it's not an exact science. All right. So in a nutshell, oxygen enhancement ratio just means you don't need to know the formula, but you need to know that tissues that are in a high oxygen environment are more susceptible to radiation damage. They are more radiosensitive. All right. So now let's dig into the details a little bit. Um, let me just see. Okay, good. Here's what you should focus on here. I already told you what this is, and I drew an example of it. As LET increases, the ability for ability of radiation to cause biological effect also generally increases. Meaning, if you have a high LET radiation, then it's going to cause more damage because more of its energy is going to be deposited in tissue. Right? So here are some examples of low LET radiation. That will be X-ray and gamma. And high LET radiation will be all the others, alpha, heavy nuclear, and so on. These are the ones that you should know for your radiation material. And you should know, even though we think of, one second, TB, we think of X-rays as ionizing. Well, they actually low LET compared to alpha. And as Garcia said, if you inhale alpha particles, it's going to be a problem. Go ahead, Phoebe. You got a question?
I'm just trying to get something cleared up.
Sure.
So when energy is low, that means that the body has more attenuating power. So that's why I guess it's transferred, the energy is transferred in the body. Is that what we're saying?
Oh, you know
And
what? It sounds like you're saying the same thing. That's not how I would have phrased it, but it sounds like you're understanding it. Let me try to rephrase this in another way, and hopefully it doesn't confuse you. If the energy is low, that means the photon will be absorbed easily,
right.
right? So the attenuation power does not change. It's not really, we don't classify it or quantify it as a power, but it's more easily absorbed, right? So think
Okay.
of this as, give me a second. Think of this as, I got you. I don't know why I do this. If I throw a bullet at you, Phoebe, with my hand, just throw it with my hand, right? It's not coming with a lot of force. So you
Mm-hmm.
can imagine you could just catch that like Neo, right? Right? But if I fire this out of a gun, now it has more force. It's gonna penetrate, so it won't be absorbed. It's gonna go right through. Sounds good?
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. All right, so here's a summary of what I just said. So as You should know all these, by the way. This is I screenshot this from a video on Rad Tech Bootcamp, and I think this summarizes it perfectly. Higher energy means low LET, meaning X-rays and gamma will pass through without depositing their energies in irradiated tissue. Photons are radiation that have low energy, well, they won't pass through, they won't penetrate as much. So they have higher linear energy transfer, meaning they will easily deposit their energies in irradiated tissue. Now, if it deposits its energy easy, that means it can cause more damage. We call that RBE. So LET and RBE are directly related. Energy and LET are inversely related. Go ahead, Cassandra.
So I'm trying to understand the relationships. So you said high energy means that it's transmitted, and if it's transmitted, then it has a low LET. And you said that X-rays are an example of low LETs.
Yes.
My question with that is the X-ray can be high energy. If it's like has like a good amount of kVp or something, it could be transmitted. So are we talking about low energy X-rays or like the X-rays? Like I'm confused.
X-rays in general have lower LET than alpha particles because X-rays have way more energy than alpha particles. Doesn't matter if it's low kVp or high kVp. You'll learn about differential absorption and photoelectric effect at a different time. But for now, you should know the relationship between energy and LET. And the relationship is as follows. If the photon energy is higher, it then has lower LET. It doesn't deposit its energy easily. Does that help you, Cassandra?
Yeah.
Cool. You're welcome. So then what then can we say about the relationship between energy and RBE? Anybody want to give it a shot?
They're LET and RBE?
No, RBE and energy. These two. If you're not sure, it's fine. Kennedy, I think I saw your hand first. Go ahead. Then Regina.
The inverse?
Inverse.
Okay.
Inverse. King, were you going to say the same thing?
Yes.
Awesome.
Okay.
Was that Elias? Elias, you got it? You understand?
I understand now. It's inversely proportional.
There you go. Fantastic. Fantastic. Just to recap, if it has higher energy, it will be transmitted. I'm going to use Cassandra's term since that's the one that she understands. It will pass through more easily and it won't deposit its energy. So it has lower linear energy transfer. Lower energy, meaning it's going to be absorbed easily. So hence we term this high LET. These two are inversely related. If it deposits its energy easily, they will have more potential for damage. We call that relative biologic effectiveness. All right, and the oxygen enhancement ratio, all you need to know is if you deprive a tissue of oxygen, it becomes radio resistant. And the reverse is true. All right, so in living systems, we can observe biological damage on the molecular level, that's on DNA, on the cellular level, did the cell die, or in organ systems, did the organ die? So you'll learn about this later on when we do learn about the nuclear bomb survivors and so on and so forth, right? And acute radiation syndrome. So they can be observed, excuse me, as a clue, aside from me stressing certain points. If I underline it, this is something that's relevant to the registry or relevant to some kind of evaluation. So this is your study guide coming up. So in living system, biologic damage can be observed on the molecular level, that's with DNA and so on, or on the cellular level, did the cell die? Or did the organ system get damaged or impaired? This is how we can evaluate the effects of ionizing radiation. All right. So earlier I mentioned that most of your body weight is comprised of water. And so when someone's exposed to an X-ray photon, the potential for damage to the DNA, directly to the DNA, is slim because most of the body is water. But it can get indirect damage from indirect action. So what that means is the X-ray photon can ionize water. We call that radiolysis, ionization of water molecules, and then that now creates free radicals that can cause catastrophic damage to your body. Free radicals. You've probably heard this term before. Again, so you can have direct action, which is unlikely because most of your body is comprised of water, not DNA, right? And how that happens is the photon can ionize water by a process called radiolysis. Radiolysis is ionization of water molecules, and it produces free radicals. No, it's not on here, but you should know what's the substance that combats free radicals. Does anybody know? Anybody know? Antioxidants. Make sure you know this. Antioxidants. You've probably heard this term before. You probably don't remember it. Antioxidants helps to combat free radicals. What are free radicals? They are unstable atoms that can then attract or attach themselves to other atoms, right? So they have an unpaired electron, to get specific, but they're unstable. They're trying to get stable again, so they can attract themselves to other atoms or attract other atoms. All right. Just to recap, there are two classifications for radiation damage. One can be direct action, where the photon, X-ray photon, will make direct contact with the DNA, or more likely, it will ionize a water molecule by a process called radiolysis. Radiolysis. A byproduct of that will be free radicals. Free radicals. It's also possible, it's not on here, that your body can create hydrogen peroxide. The way we combat that is to consume antioxidants. It's not on here, but it's important to know. I'll mention this now as an aside. It's just cool information. The target theory just means if the important part of the cell or the critical part of the cell, most believe it's the DNA, is hit, then the cell can die. Think about this. The DNA, like we said before, contains all the genetic information for the human body, right? So if that's damaged, then the cell itself could die. That's all that's saying in a nutshell here. Most scientists believe that's the most important part of the cell, the nucleus, which has the DNA. The target theory just means if that master molecule is hit, then the cell will die.
So, like you mentioned about necrosis, right, earlier?
Yeah, necrosis or apoptosis.
Apoptosis, right.
Wait, Professor,
Yes,
could you repeat what you said? Sorry, I was still in the other slide.
that's all right. About target theory.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, got you. So in a nutshell, what this is saying, I didn't see who said that. Was that Cassandra? Whose name is it? Say your name.
Yeah, it's me.
Got you. In a nutshell, what this is saying is if the most important part of the cell, in this case they call it the master molecule, and most believe it's the DNA, if that is hit, the nucleus is hit that has DNA, then the cell will die. That's all that's saying. That's what
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's what the target theory is saying. I'll come back to that. First, I got to start here. So the law of Bergoni and Tribondeu. I think I spelled that wrong on some part of the slide. Law of Bergoni and Tribondeu. That's how you say it. These are two scientists that observed the radiation biology, and they've theorized, and we've accepted as consensus, that younger cells, cells that are rapidly dividing, and undifferentiated cells are more radiosensitive than their counterparts. It's a longer definition, but that's all you need to know. Cells that reproduce quickly or have high reproductive activity, and cells that are undifferentiated are more radiosensitive. Now, you already know this. We'll start with the undifferentiated cell. That's why we protect people's gonads when we're doing x-rays, because they contain reproductive cells, right? And cells that are undifferentiated would be germ cells. Germ cells are a type of cell, I'm sorry, stem cells are a type of cell that can become anything. And if those are damaged, then the cell that it would, the tissue that it was about to develop into would be at a deficit. For example, a stem cell. Let me find that. Here we go. Let me find that for you. 1 second. Let's use this one. So a stem cell is a cell that has the capacity to become anything. Those are called undifferentiated cells. A differentiated cell would be a somatic cell, like a muscle cell or a nerve fiber, that kind of stuff. So these are more radiosensitive than the differentiated cell, those that have already matured into its own type of tissue. When I was younger, my mom would say, you have the potential to be anything. It was true anyways, but I know what she's trying to say. So in other words, a stem cell is something that hasn't developed yet into what it's going to be. It doesn't know what it wants to do yet when it grows up, right? These are more radiosensitive than their mature counterparts. All right, and then reproductive cells, the sex cells are more radiosensitive than the somatic cells, right? So this is why we cover people's gonads with lead shielding when we're doing an X-ray as much as possible. That's all the law of Bergonian tribond is saying, right? Sounds fancy, but not really. And it's kind of common sense if you think about it. And then the last bit of this will be younger cells are more radiosensitive. So a child will be more susceptible to radiation damage than an adult. That's because they have more time to develop a mutation. Someone who's 90 that gets exposed to 15 x-rays, by the time the cancer develops, unfortunately, they would have passed away from old age. But someone who's 5 months old get exposed to the same amount of radiation, they have a longer period to develop a mutation. All right, so to recap, the law of Bergonian tribondiute is a longer definition, but it's basically saying younger cells, babies, reproductive cells, are cells that are part of the reproductive system, are more radiosensitive. Cells that are reproducing at a higher rate, for example, the basal cell of your basal cell of your skin is multiplying at a fast rate. And cells that are undifferentiated, these are more radiosensitive than their counterparts. Any questions on this? All right, so an example of this, if I should ask you, which of these is more radiosensitive? We'll go with a sperm cell, a child's nerve cell, or a liver cell. Anybody can just unmute.
Oh, can I answer?
Yeah, please go.
Isaac? You said on my child's liver cell or
nerve cell.
Or what's the other one?
Sex cell.
I think a sex cell. I think.
There you go. So let's take a look here. We can see radiosensitive cells on the left would be germ cells. The ones that you should know about, germ cell, and the basal layer of the skin, which would be the innermost layer, the deepest layer of the skin, because that's the one that's most rapidly dividing. Typical registry review content will be which layer of the skin is most radiosensitive. Be sure to pick this one when you see it on registry review content. Which one is most radiosensitive? Make sure you know this for registry review content. Not so much for the upcoming quiz. But this is the typical question I see all the time. And the ones that are radio insensitive, it's just a weird way to say it. 1 second, Javon. Radio resistant is the word I like. It'll be brain cells, muscle cells, nerve cells. Go ahead, Javon. And then Jada.
You said basal cells are the most radiosensitive?
Of the skin layers, yes.
Of the skin layers? Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Jada, you got a question?
No.
Okay. So this word radio insensitive is just another term for radio resistant. All right. Awkward way of saying it, but that's what the textbook has. These terms, I think most of you have seen these terms before. What's another term for erythrocyte? Does anybody know? Go ahead, Jacqueline.
Is that like a red blood cell?
Red blood cell, fantastic. So I put this on here because I think it's important for you to be able to identify these terms. Osteo means bone, so osteocyte is a bone cell. Leuco means white, so leukocyte is a white blood cell, WBC, RBC. On the study guide, I just put RBC, I put an WBC. That just means white blood cell, red blood cell. This is why I put this on here. The only reason I put this on here is so you can know these terms if you haven't seen them before. So erythro means red, leuco means white. We talked about this already, so I'll skip over some of this stuff. So this is a summary of all of what we just did. Make sure you watch this video. All right, so if I should ask you, let me get Raul, which what are the base pairs of DNA? What do they pair with, Raul?
Germ cells,
No, base pairs. What are the
base
pairings?
pairs.
Yes.
Um,
1 second, Ashley. Give him 5 seconds.
I'm sorry, Professor.
No need to apologize. Ashley, we got for me.
Adenine pairs with thymine and cytosine pairs with guanine.
Fantastic. You got it, Raul?
Got it, Professor.
All right. So I said this earlier, and it's also written right here. And the way how I remember it is car in the garage, apple under the tree, or apple in the tree. That's different for RNA, by the way. It still has car in the garage, but it was apple under the tree. I put uracil replaces thymine. I don't know if that helps you or not, but this is how I remember it. All right. So car in the garage, apple under the tree for RNA, and apple in the tree for DNA. All right. We just talked about this. So this is a summary of some of the stuff. You don't need to know the phases, but they're on here for information purposes. I'm just going to skip through and we are almost done. What time is it? Okay, good. We're doing great on time here. This is good.
Professor, you mentioned about doing a Kahoot towards the end or not today?
The Kahoot's already up. We can do it if you like. We can. Let me get to this first. We're almost done already. We're almost done. This is a good thing to know for your registry. Just something to memorize. It goes from highest radio sensitivity to lowest radio sensitivity. Really good to know. You can get radiation-induced cataracts. I'm not sure if you guys have learned that yet. I think I must have mentioned it. But make sure you at least know which ones are on the higher end, which ones are on the lower end. This is a good thing to know for the registry. Registry review material, I should say. All right, so we just talked about that, and we are almost done, I think. As I flip through these summary slides, does anybody have questions? All right, so if I should ask, let me get Lee, how is the photon energy and LET, how are these two related?
They're inversely related.
What's that mean?
Meaning if the energy is higher, you have a lower LET.
Fantastic. If I should ask, who else we got on here? Solis, how is LET related to RBE?
Well, Professor, I think Nick signed off for the advisement.
Oh, is that who sent me the message? Okay, got you. Yeah, go ahead, please. Thank you, Lee. Go ahead,
I know
Elias.
this is LET and how you call it, the other one, what's it called again?
RBE. It's on the screen.
RBE, yes, RBE. They're directly proportional.
Related.
Related. Yes.
Related. By the way, does anybody know why I say that with such nuance? Related and proportional. Directly proportional mean they increase or decrease by the same ratio. And directly related just means they're impacted in one way or the other, right? So I use those in a nuanced way. So the safest way to say it is directly related, meaning if one goes up, the other goes up. If it was by the same proportion, then we say directly proportional. Quite often we use those two terms interchangeably, but that would be inaccurate. So just to clarify, if you say something is related, you say, well, it affects the other thing. If you say it affects it the same way, then you say directly related. If you say it affects it by the same proportion, you say directly proportional, and so on and so forth. Is that clear for everybody?
Yes.
Cool. All right.
Professor,
Yes.
you said the LET and the RBE are inversely proportional or direct?
Directly.
Oh, okay.
Right here. Higher LET, higher RBE. See it? Directly related, not proportional. Related.
Yeah.
Professor, quick question on you.
Yeah, please go.
I came a little late because I advised now. Can you explain what RBE was? Like I joined late.
Yeah, I will in just 1 second. Virginia, you got a question?
Yes, I'm just going back over the radio sensitivity one. Can you explain like which one's more radio sensitive?
Which cell is more radio sensitive?
On not cell. Well, yeah, essentially cell, because the box mentions basal cells, blood cells. Can you explain like the order of what is more and what's less sensitive?
I see, I got you. So let me explain. I forgot the name of the gentleman who just asked me to explain something. You said RBE or oxygen enhancement ratio. Which one did you want to know about? The gentleman who said he came in late, Isaac.
RBE.
RBE is relative biologic effectiveness. What's the potential for the radiation to cause damage? Sorry if I'm speaking so fast. So for example, if one type of radiation can cause more damage, in this case, if it has higher LET, then we say it has a higher relative biologic effectiveness. So that just describes the potential to cause biologic harm. And how we describe these would be, I think this slide summarizes it properly. Higher energy it has lower LET. Lower energy gives you high LET. High LET, high RBE. What that means is if it is transmitted or if it passes through without depositing energy, we say it has higher energy and lower LET. Good so far, Isaac?
Yeah, yeah.
Cool. And RBE just means it has a higher potential for damage. So if it deposits its energy easily, then we say it has a higher RBE. Sounds good? You got it?
Yeah, yeah.
All right, cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just remember, this is being recorded, so I will upload it to YouTube, and then you guys can watch it there. The lady who wanted to know about the order of radio sensitivity, was that your question?
Yes.
Okay, got you. You can see them right here.
I'm not. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. I got you then. Thank
See it?
you.
Cool.
Yeah.
See, it goes from 1 to 18. Ready?
So that one basically, um, I should say this box basically goes more in depth into the one that talks about like the basal cells and the nerve cells and the brain cells, right?
Yeah, so that one, it just lists this one, I mean. This just
Yeah.
lists them, but not in any particular order.
Okay, gotcha. Perfect. Thanks.
You're welcome. And this will be radio resistant, another term for radio insensitive. If you blink, you'll miss this bit here. Radio insensitive just means radio resistant. Any other questions? So we have gone through everything and then some. All right, cool. Someone asked about the Kahoot. I think I can stop recording here. Should I? Because the Kahoot you can do on your own, but I'm going to go through right here. I'm going to stop recording. And the Kahoot, just so whomever is watching the recording afterwards, is right here. Actually, no, it's not. Go to the dashboard, and for Rad Protection, it's right at the top of the modules. I finished this late Saturday. I think it was Saturday or something. It's right here. Right? That's how you find it for each of the courses. All right, so I'm going to stop recording.